The city of Atlanta buzzed with the energy of a new week as a sleek black luxury sedan pulled into the visitor parking area of Pinnacle Solutions. Once a respected consulting firm, the towering glass and steel building seemed to hold the echoes of past success. Its prominent logo slightly faded against the Georgia sky. Behind the wheel sat Mr. Sterling, a man known in select business circles for his sharp intellect and his uncanny ability to breathe life back into stagnant corporations. He ran a hand over the lapel of his finely tailored suit. Another day, another challenge. Few outside the highest echelons of finance and industry knew the full extent of Nate Sterling's accomplishments. He preferred it that way, letting the results of his work speak for themselves. Armed with a distinguished MBA and a history of successful corporate turnarounds, Nate was a silent force, often arriving unexpectedly, observing, and then acting decisively. He was here for precisely that reason, the final stages of acquiring Pinnacle Solutions, a firm that had recently shown signs of struggle, making it an attractive, albeit complex, target. He anticipated some resistance, perhaps underestimation, but nothing that had unfolded could have prepared him for the initial interaction that awaited him just beyond the entrance. Taking a deep breath, Nate stepped out of the car and headed for the lobby. The lobby of Pinnacle Solutions was impressive, a cavernous space of polished marble and soaring ceilings. Yet, a subtle air of neglect hung about it, like dust motes dancing in the sunlight filtering through the grand windows. Motivational posters that had seen better days adorned the walls. Ahead, a lone reception desk stood sentinel. Behind it sat a woman, Brenda Jenkins, her nameplate visible from a distance. She was engrossed in her phone, meticulously manicured nails clicking against the screen. Nate approached, his presence commanding, a quiet confidence radiating from him. At well over 6 feet tall and impeccably dressed, he carried the bearing of someone important, someone deserving of attention. Brenda, however, barely registered his approach. "Yes?" she asked curtly, finally glancing up but not bothering to hide her annoyance. Her eyes skimmed over him, a dismissive flicker from his expensive loafers to his calm, steady gaze. Nate offered a pleasant smile. "Good morning. I'm here for a scheduled meeting with." Brenda cut him off. "Look, I don't know what you're selling, but we're not buying. No one here has appointments with vendors this morning. You can just leave." Nate paused, genuinely taken aback by her abruptness. Years navigating complex corporate landscapes had honed his ability to remain composed under pressure. But this was a new level of casual hostility. He extended a business card. "I assure you, I have a very important meeting. My name is Nathaniel Sterling." She waved a hand, palm outward, stopping him. "I heard you the first time. Do I need to call security? Or are you going to get lost on your own?" Her tone was jarringly aggressive. Remaining calm, Nate tucked his card back inside his jacket. He inclined his head slightly. "I can wait if necessary. But I do have a valid reason to be here. I suggest you check with your superiors." Brenda pointed towards the glass doors leading outside. "We don't want random people wandering around. Take a hint and get lost." Nate's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. A slow wave of frustration and disappointment washed over him, followed by a flicker of anger. He forced a thin smile. "I'll see myself out," he said, turning on his heel. As he walked back across the vast lobby, his keen eyes took note of everything: security cameras, discreet lounge areas, exit signs. He had arrived to salvage a company. Instead, he was treated like a nuisance, a trespasser. He couldn't know yet the full extent of the power he held over Pinnacle's destiny, or how quickly he was about to exercise it. Stepping back outside, the Atlanta breeze ruffled his jacket. Nate pulled out his phone and dialed a number. Brenda's reaction was more than rude, it was a symptom, a hint of deeper issues within the company's culture. He called Sarah Albright, a member of Pinnacle's board who had been a key proponent of his acquisition plan. Sarah answered promptly. "Nate, you're early. I was just about to head down and get you." Nate's voice was calm, but with an edge of ice. "I came through the main entrance. Your receptionist, Brenda, told me to get lost. She refused to acknowledge my appointment." There was a brief, heavy silence on the other end. "Oh no, Nate, I am so sorry. That's Brenda. She's new, and there have been complaints. I'm on my way now. We will absolutely sort this out." He didn't enjoy causing trouble for an employee, But he couldn't let such blatant disrespect derail a critical meeting. "I'll wait outside," he replied. Moments later, Sarah, a dynamic woman with a direct manner, hurried out, profusely apologizing as she ushered Nate back inside. Brenda visibly paled at the sight of Sarah's stern expression, the realization of her mistake dawning. Before Sarah could address the receptionist, Nate subtly raised a hand, signaling he would handle that particular issue later. For now, his focus was on evaluating Pinnacle's operational health. He wouldn't be easily swayed from the acquisition, provided the internal rot wasn't beyond repair. Sarah led Nate through frosted glass doors and down a maze of corridors lined with cubicles. The office floor felt dated. Rows of desks equipped with older computers. Employees glanced up furtively as they passed, a mix of curiosity and apprehension in their eyes. Some recognized Nate from industry news, though many seemed unaware of his significance. They arrived at a large conference room. A sign on the glass wall indicated it was a key meeting area. Inside, a long table of dark wood gleamed under the lights. Sarah cleared her throat. "Again, Nate, my apologies for the morning incident. Hopefully, things proceed smoothly from here." Nate stood near a whiteboard, scanning the empty chairs. "I hope so. We have a full agenda if we're finalizing the acquisition." He frowned slightly. "Where's everyone else?" Sarah looked flustered. "They were supposed to be here. Let me track them down." She stepped out, phone to her ear, leaving Nate alone. He took out a notebook, reviewing points for the day, valuation, pending legal matters, labor relations, and critically, access to the data archives. A discrepancy in Pinnacle's reported liabilities had initially flagged the company for his attention. As he waited, he picked up a branded pen from the table, noticing Pinnacle's motto stamped on it, "Innovation with Integrity." The irony was sharp. If even a fraction of the rumors about shady internal dealings were true, integrity seemed a distant concept. He was determined to uncover the truth. After some delay, members of Pinnacle's upper management began to arrive. First, Thomas Croft, the CFO, entered, a gaunt man whose forced smile did little to ease Nate's instincts. Next came Veronica Hayes, head of human resources, a tall woman with a composed, almost unnerving presence. Finally, David Miller, the chief operating officer, arrived, his face etched with anxiety. As introductions were made, Nate observed their reactions. Thomas maintained a practiced politeness, but his eyes darted around nervously. Veronica exuded calm confidence, seemingly having nothing to hide. David was the only one who managed a genuinely warm handshake and welcome. Sarah sat near Nate, an air of tension surrounding her. "All right, everyone," she said, breaking the silence. "You know why we're here. Mr. Sterling is a highly respected executive with a keen interest in Pinnacle's future. Let's afford him the professionalism he deserves." There were nods, but Nate sensed hidden agendas. Pinnacle was struggling financially, losing clients, plagued by whispers of misconduct. Management had sought a buyout, but now some seemed intent on keeping secrets buried. Nate began, his voice measured. "I've conducted thorough due diligence on Pinnacle and see significant potential, strong brand recognition, talented people, profitable niches. My goal is revitalization, not dismantling. However, I have concerns about transparency, particularly regarding financial records." Thomas shifted uncomfortably. "We're prepared to address any questions." Nate offered a disarming smile. "I appreciate that. Let's start with the numbers from the past quarter. There appears to be a significant discrepancy." Suddenly, the conference room phone rang. Veronica answered, her expression darkening. "Yes? Wait, slow down. Security found what?" She covered the receiver, eyes flicking between Nate and Sarah. "They found a misplaced server in the storage warehouse. It was supposed to be decommissioned but seems to be connected to an active network." Nate's eyebrows rose. Interesting. A quiet alarm settled over the room. Was someone manipulating data? The tension spiked. Once Veronica hung up, Nate asked calmly, "May I see this warehouse?" Thomas paled. "We don't usually allow non-employees in restricted areas." Sarah cleared her throat. "Given the circumstances and Mr. Sterling's pending acquisition, I think we can make an exception." The room fell into a hushed quiet. Nate saw a flicker of panic cross Thomas's face. The CFO, it seemed, was very concerned about what that old server might reveal. I'd like to see it now. Nate reiterated. Veronica nodded. Standing. I'll escort you. The group shuffled out, a murmur of anxiety rippling through them. As they walked, Nate caught sidelong glances from employees. The story of the man told to get lost was likely already circulating. They descended stairs to a dimly lit corridor leading to an unmarked metal door. Veronica swiped her badge. The door opened into a large storage area filled with old equipment. Towards the back, a single green light blinked on a dusty black server tower. Nate approached carefully, stepping around boxes marked Archive. A label read, Property of Pinnacle Solutions, decommissioned. Yet, it was clearly humming. Active. Any idea who last accessed this? Nate asked, wiping dust from the case. David shrugged. Thomas looked distinctly uneasy. I'll have IT run a check. Thomas offered quickly. Probably just an old data repository we forgot about. Nate's eyes narrowed. He wasn't convinced. I'd like one of my own IT specialists to take a look. If you don't object. Thomas hesitated, then forced a smile. Of course. Nate caught Veronica's curious gaze. A silent acknowledgement of his determination. Sarah, standing behind them, seemed more distressed than ever. Nate sent a quick text to Dr. Anya Sharma, a trusted consultant waiting in the building's cafe. Dr. Sharma, known for her sharp technical skills, would arrive quickly. While they waited, Nate and the others returned to a meeting room. Nate studied the managers, Thomas feigning calm, Veronica in quiet thought, David nervously tapping his pen, Sarah fidgeting. Each seemed to carry secrets. Whose secrets threatened the acquisition? Dr. Sharma arrived shortly, petite and focused. She exuded competence. She plugged a laptop into a projector. We'll create a quick mirror of that server drive. Then we'll see what it's connected to. Thomas slid lower in his chair. Shouldn't we get legal clearance first? He ventured. Dr. Sharma gave him a confident look. As I understand it, Mr. Sterling is in the final stages of acquisition, which grants him certain due diligence privileges. This server is company property, so we are free to inspect it. Thomas swallowed hard, offering no further argument. Within minutes, the server's contents were mirrored. Lines of code scrolled across the screen, revealing documents, spreadsheets, email archives. The group watched tensely as Dr. Sharma navigated folders. Here, she said, opening a file. This references external accounts, possible shell companies, large sums of money moving offshore. She highlighted another folder. Employee profiles, payroll adjustments, bank account numbers. This isn't old junk. Someone has been actively routing funds. A hush fell over the room. The potential scope of wrongdoing was staggering. Nate felt adrenaline surge. Dr. Sharma continued digging, revealing a sophisticated network designed to funnel money out of Pinnacle for at least 2 years, keeping the transactions off the official books. Likely a high-level embezzlement scheme. Thomas Croft's face was pale. That's impossible. We have checks and balances. Our accounting team would catch something like that. But his voice trembled. Nate studied him. You're the CFO. Mr. Croft, are you saying you never noticed these discrepancies? Thomas stammered. I'll investigate. Maybe it's a rogue employee. Or someone with old system access. Nate considered the possibility Thomas himself was involved. Or Veronica. Or David. Or even Sarah, though she appeared genuinely shocked. Complicating matters. The board had offered a suspiciously low purchase price. Did they suspect an impending scandal? Sarah finally spoke, her voice tight. No matter who is behind this, we need to fix it. If word gets out, this acquisition might be the least of our worries. Lawsuits, criminal charges. Nate nodded gravely. Agreed. We need answers quickly. For now, let's keep this quiet until we have concrete evidence. Dr. Sharma, focus on identifying the key players. He refused to let the situation spiral out of control. The seeds of Pinnacle's downfall might already be sown. If the corruption was widespread, shutting the company down could be the only option. Yet, part of him still hoped to salvage it, to protect the innocent employees unaware of the looming catastrophe. As the day progressed, a palpable tension gripped the building. Whispers of hidden servers and corporate spies fueled paranoia among the staff. Brenda, the receptionist, moved with an anxious energy, clearly having been reprimanded, though she seemed more resentful than remorseful. Meanwhile, Nate's team set up a makeshift command center, sifting through thousands of documents. each revelation uncovering deeper rot. Later, during a quiet lunch, Nate spoke with Sarah and David. A simple salad sat untouched on Nate's plate. David nervously sipped his coffee. Glancing towards the door, Sarah leaned in, voice hushed. "I'm worried, Nate. If this is extensive, the entire leadership could be implicated. Are you still sure you want to acquire this mess?" Nate pressed his lips together. "I need to see it through. I owe it to the honest workers here. And to what Pinnacle could be. But I won't let criminals operate freely." He paused, fixing Sarah with a penetrating gaze. "Is there anyone in particular you suspect?" Sarah inhaled sharply. "I have no proof, but Thomas has been acting strange for months. There are also rumors about Veronica's ties to external consulting firms. A potential conflict of interest. David, to my knowledge, seems clean, perhaps just overwhelmed, but I can't be certain about anyone." David bristled slightly but remained silent, worry evident in his eyes. Nate resolved to handle each potential suspect carefully. He couldn't rule out a larger conspiracy. The outcome could be catastrophic or redemptive. That afternoon, reviewing archived email threads in the command center, Dr. Sharma beckoned Nate over. "There's something you need to see," she said quietly, pulling up an old email from an external domain, but signed with the initials TC. The message detailed instructions for manipulating employee benefits to free up budget, ending with notes about funneling funds through a shell corporation. TC could be Thomas Croft. Dr. Sharma noted, but someone might be using his initials. Nate's jaw tightened. "He's the CFO. It fits. But you're right, we can't assume." Another email chain revealed direct communication between the same external address and someone called VH. The instructions were even bolder. Shift health insurance surpluses overseas. Maintain stealth. VH and TC seemed intimately coordinated. VH could very well be Veronica Hayes. A cold weight settled in Nate's stomach. Two top executives potentially working together, siphoning funds while cutting employee benefits. Nate took a deep breath. "Dr. Sharma, keep digging for direct links. No guesswork." A heavy silence filled the room. If the CFO and HR head were behind this, they were stealing not just money, but the security and well-being of the workforce. The revelation solidified Nate's resolve. Justice would be done. Later, Nate made a point of walking through the main lobby again. He'd noticed Brenda glaring at him throughout the day. This time, he approached her desk, not to humiliate, but to understand if her hostility was linked to something deeper. Brenda stiffened as Nate approached, forcing a tight smile. "Yes, Mr. Sterling?" She pronounced his name with a subtle sneer. "I want to clear the air," Nate said calmly. "I understand there was a misunderstanding this morning." Her mouth set in a firm line. "I was just doing my job. We get a lot of unexpected visitors." He nodded slowly. "I respect the need for security. However, your approach felt aggressive." She looked away, clicking a pen. "That's how they trained me." Nate tilted his head, intrigued. "Who trained you? You're fairly new, aren't you?" Brenda shrugged, her voice low. "Someone from HR gave me orientation. Told me to screen visitors carefully, especially if they looked like they didn't belong." Nate's eyes narrowed. That phrasing carried a distinct undertone. "Which person from HR?" She hesitated. "Veronica Hayes, head of our." "Look, I'm not saying she told me to discriminate, but she made it clear I should be wary of certain people." Nate processed this, suspecting Veronica's instructions were likely more insidious than standard procedure, potentially driven by prejudice or a desire to control who entered the building. "Thank you for clarifying," Nate said finally. "You should know, I don't hold grudges, but I won't tolerate disrespect or bias either. I'm sure you understand." Brenda swallowed, her expression hardening into a reluctant acknowledgement. Nate walked away, more convinced than ever that Pinnacle's issues were deep-seated, orchestrated by the very people who should have been promoting a healthy culture. As dusk settled over the city, Nate stood in Pinnacle's executive suite, overlooking the glittering skyline. The day's discoveries weighed heavily. Sarah joined him. "Long day?" she asked. Nate let out a slow breath. "You could say that. We've found evidence of serious corruption, possible bias, and a toxic culture. This is more than I anticipated. The question is Pinnacle salvageable, or should I shut it down?" Sarah lowered her gaze. "Please don't give up on the good people here. Most employees have no idea Shutting down would devastate them. Nate nodded. I won't make rash decisions. But if upper management is beyond reform, it might be the only option. I'll find a way to protect the innocent employees if it comes to that. Their conversation was interrupted by Sarah's buzzing phone. She checked it, frowning. Thomas wants an impromptu meeting in the boardroom. He says it's urgent. A flicker of apprehension passed between them. Nate followed Sarah out, uncertain what lay ahead. If Thomas sensed suspicion mounting, perhaps he was desperate to seize control or bury the evidence. In the boardroom, Thomas sat at the head of the table, joined by Veronica Hayes and David Miller, who looked like he wanted to disappear. Without preamble, Thomas launched into a prepared speech. I have just learned that Mr. Sterling has unauthorized personnel digging through confidential company data. Thomas stated, his voice booming with feigned outrage. This is a breach of protocol and creates significant liability. I insist these investigations cease immediately. Nate met his gaze steadily. You're referring to my IT consultant, Dr. Sharma. She's conducting due diligence under my authority for a potential acquisition. That is hardly unauthorized. Veronica interjected smoothly. Thomas is right. Even if you're buying Pinnacle, you're not the owner yet. We must preserve data confidentiality until the paperwork is finalized. David looked utterly miserable. Sarah spoke up firmly. Mr. Sterling is acting under the explicit direction of the board. If you have an issue, take it up with them. Thomas's jaw clenched. As CFO, it is my responsibility to ensure we don't hand over sensitive information to an outsider. I am halting all data access until the sale is signed and sealed. Nate's pulse quickened with anger. This was a transparent attempt at obstruction. That's suspicious timing, he said quietly, given what we've discovered on that server. Thomas scoffed, slamming his palm on the table. We found nothing illegal or unethical. Old files, that's all. Now, are you going to comply? Nate felt the tension coiling in the room. He leveled a cool gaze at Thomas. If you think you can intimidate me into ignoring evidence of embezzlement, think again. The board invited me here to uncover the truth. If you have something to hide, no last-minute tactic will save you. Veronica exhaled sharply. In ambush? You speak as though we're already guilty. In ambush? Nate echoed, gesturing to the three of them. If anyone's staging an ambush, it's you. Scrambling to bury evidence. Why would innocent people be so desperate to hide data? David's hand holding a pen trembled. He looked at Thomas and Veronica, then at Nate, his lips parting as if to speak. But no words came out. He stared at the table, resigned. Without waiting for a reply, Nate stood. We can finish this conversation when the rest of the board is present. Until then, Dr. Sharma's investigation continues. You step out that door. Thomas barked after him, and you will face immediate legal action for violating Pinnacle's confidentiality agreements. Nate paused in the doorway, turning slowly. I've faced down bigger threats than you. By the time this is over, you might wish you had never tried to silence me. With that, he left, his pulse pounding. Outside the boardroom, Nate took a moment to compose himself. He checked his phone. No calls from the board. He considered contacting them directly. But first, he needed irrefutable proof. He hurried back to the command center. Dr. Sharma was intensely focused on her monitors. Complex flowcharts mapping suspicious transfers. She looked up, alarmed. Bad meeting? Nate nodded. Thomas and Veronica just threatened legal action if we continue. They want us to stop. That's the confirmation I needed. Where do we stand on linking the funds directly to them? Dr. Sharma pointed to highlighted lines on the screen. Multiple connections to shell corporations, tracing back to accounts in the Caribbean and Europe, managed by entities controlled by two individuals, T. Croft and V. Hayes. Digital signatures match the email addresses. Nate felt a grim satisfaction. So, they are the culprits. What about David Miller? Dr. Sharma frowned. He's on some memos about cost-cutting, but doesn't appear part of the funneling operation. Maybe a bystander, or reluctant participant. Not sure yet. Nate folded his arms, thoughts racing. If Thomas and Veronica were cornered, they'd do anything. If they feared criminal charges, they might destroy the evidence. Time was running out. Sarah rushed in, breathless. Nate, the board is holding an emergency meeting. Thomas is spinning a story about you overstepping. But I've told them everything. They want to hear your side. Nate nodded. Good, we have what we need. Let's get it to them securely. Questions swirled. Would the board side with him? Could Pinnacle be saved? Or was it too tarnished? Just as Nate prepared to leave for the board meeting, his phone buzzed with an urgent text from Leo Chen, one of Dr. Sharma's colleagues. They're shutting down main servers. Attempting data wipe. Stop them. Nate sucked in a sharp breath. They're wiping evidence, he said to Dr. Sharma. Rushing out, she sprinted after him. They dashed through the hallways, ignoring startled staff, reaching the IT department. Leo was blocking the door against two burly security guards. They came on Thomas's orders, said they had to disable unauthorized access. Nate quickly flashed his phone at the guards, capturing their image. Gentlemen, stand down. I am authorized by the board to conduct this investigation. If you proceed, you will face repercussions. One guard hesitated. Mr. Croft said. I outranked Mr. Croft, Nate stated, his voice low and firm. If you're unsure, call the board. Now move aside. The guards exchanged looks and stepped back. Nate, Dr. Sharma, and Leo hurried into the server room. A console displayed, data eraser, in progress, 65% complete. Dr. Sharma dashed to a terminal, fingers flying. I'll try to abort. Leo, see if you can isolate the backup drives. Nate ordered, adrenaline surging. We can't lose that data. It's the proof. The progress bar crept up, 70%, 75%, 80%. Dr. Sharma cursed under her breath. They've locked the admin account. Hacking in, but it's slow. Leo fumbled through a drawer, pulling out a portable drive. We mirrored most data earlier, but not all. We need time to copy the rest. As the bar hit 90%, Dr. Sharma broke through, hammering the keyboard to abort. 10 agonizing seconds later, the display flickered, showing cancellation prompt. The bar froze at 92% and disappeared. A collective sigh of relief. Leo quickly began copying remaining critical data to an offline drive. Dr. Sharma glared at the screen. They almost destroyed everything. Nate ran a hand over his face. We have enough evidence. Let's finalize it before Thomas tries anything else. This ends now. Sometime later, Nate and Sarah entered Pinnacle's largest boardroom, an imposing space with city views. 9 board members sat around an ornate table, their expressions serious. Thomas Croft and Veronica Hayes stood across the room, with David Miller seated nearby, looking trapped. As Nate took a seat, the chairman, an older man with silver hair, cleared his throat. We've heard conflicting accounts. Mr. Croft insists on a protocol breach. Ms. Albright claims large-scale corruption. Mr. Sterling, please explain. Nate rose, meeting each board member's gaze. We located an active, decommissioned server today. On it, we found evidence of extensive embezzlement and offshore accounts linked to top executives. We nearly lost that data due to a forced wipe orchestrated by Mr. Croft, who threatened legal action to stop the investigation. Thankfully, we preserved the evidence. A ripple of murmurs spread. The chairman's gaze settled on Thomas. Is this true, Mr. Croft? Thomas shook his head vigorously. Absolutely not. Baseless accusations. Any old server was likely an outdated system. Mr. Sterling is twisting normal transactions. He's on a witch hunt. Veronica nodded. We have ironclad procedures. These shell companies are likely standard vendor accounts. Nate inserted a USB drive into a laptop connected to a large screen. Then explain these email threads and transaction logs. He opened a folder titled Pinnacle Fraud Evidence, revealing messages between TC and VH, detailing fund redirection. Logs showed steady outflows to suspicious accounts. Thomas's face turned crimson. Veronica's eyes flickered with anger. The board watched in stunned silence. The chairman gestured for Nate to continue. Nate displayed a spreadsheet listing amounts, dates, recipient accounts. These match hidden transactions. Over 2 years, we're looking at embezzlement exceeding $15 million. The digital signatures trace back to Thomas Croft and Veronica Hayes. A collective gasp. Some board members shook their heads. Thomas sputtered. This is a setup. He's manipulating data. Nate gestured towards Dr. Sharma, standing quietly. Dr. Sharma is a respected expert. She can verify the data's integrity. We have multiple backups. Tampering on our end is impossible. The chairman's voice was cold. Mr. Croft, Ms. Hayes, Explain these specific correspondences. Veronica's composure cracked. We delegated tasks. Maybe someone else used our credentials. There's no proof it was us. Skeptical looks exchanged among the board. Then Sarah produced her own folder. I've pulled public bank statements for Mr. Croft and Ms. Hayes. Both show suspicious deposits matching the timelines on those logs. Thomas clenched his fists. Veronica's lips thinned. They had no plausible explanations left. Sensing their unmasking, Thomas made one last attempt. Even if funds were redirected, it was for Pinnacle's benefit. Legitimate tax shelters, strategic investments. I might have overstepped, but I did it to keep us afloat. The chairman cut him off. That is not how the board authorized you to operate. Tax shelters are transparent. These accounts were hidden. The board never approved them. Veronica's eyes burned. Don't you see? This is a coup. An outsider wants to buy us cheap and dismantle us for profit. Nate stood firm. I came with every intention of preserving and revitalizing Pinnacle. I still do. Unless your corruption is too deep. You can't blame me for uncovering the truth. My team and I simply followed the money. The chairman exchanged a grave glance with the other board members. They nodded in unison. Thomas Croft and Veronica Hayes. The evidence is overwhelming. You are relieved of your duties. Effective immediately. Security will escort you off the premises. We will conduct a formal audit and press criminal charges if warranted. Thomas glared daggers at Nate. You smug. He bit off the insult. You have no idea what you've done. Pinnacle can't survive this scandal. Nate held his gaze. Better to expose the truth than let a corporation rot from within. David Miller exhaled shakily, relief flooding his face. Thomas stormed out. Veronica close behind, flanked by security. The door slammed, leaving a tense silence. The chairman turned to Nate. Well, that's settled. Now, about the future. Nate inhaled deeply. The damage is significant. We need a forensic investigation, immediate structural reforms, and new leadership. I am prepared to proceed with the acquisition on adjusted terms, provided we can salvage Pinnacle's reputation. The board conferred. Then the chairman extended his hand. We will support your plan, Mr. Sterling, so long as our employees' best interests are paramount. Nate shook his hand, the tension beginning to recede. The immediate threat was gone, but Pinnacle's viability remained uncertain. The toxic elements had been exposed. The next day, local news headlines blared. Pinnacle Solutions CFO and HR head fired amid embezzlement allegations. Footage showed Thomas and Veronica being escorted from the building. A board statement announced Nathaniel Sterling as interim CEO. While many employees celebrated, others worried about their jobs. Nate wasted no time meeting with staff, assuring them of fair treatment and change. He established a hotline for whistleblowers. The mood shifted from dread to cautious optimism. Rumor had it Thomas and Veronica had left Atlanta, but authorities quickly caught up. Within a relatively short time, they were in custody, indicted on charges of fraud and money laundering. The confident executives now faced years in prison. Amid the upheaval, David Miller, not implicated in the fraud, came forward with valuable details. He'd been pressured into signing off on suspicious measures but had secretly documented everything. Uneasy about the ethics, his records bolstered the case against Thomas and Veronica. For his cooperation, David kept his position under Nate's strict oversight. Some days later, standing in the same lobby where he had been dismissed, Nate addressed the entire Pinnacle staff. He spoke of accountability, transparency, and building a better future. Brenda stood to the side, looking anxious. After his speech, she approached quietly, eyes downcast. Mr. Sterling, I'm sorry. Nate, recalling her sneer, felt a mix of frustration and empathy. We all make mistakes. Just remember, you never know who might walk through that door. She nodded, tears welling. Ms. Hayes told me to watch for certain people. She said it was policy. I see now how wrong that was. Nate placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Don't let someone else's prejudice become your own. That's not how we'll operate here anymore. He left her to grapple with the weight of her actions, focusing on transformation over punishment. Nate allowed her a chance to change under new HR guidelines. It wasn't a free pass, but genuine effort could earn her a place. In the following weeks, Nate spearheaded a massive restructuring. New accountants, compliance officers, and a new HR head from a reputable external firm were hired. Audits confirmed the stolen funds were substantial. The scandal revealed Thomas and Veronica had directly manipulated pay and benefits for personal profit. Nate publicly committed to recovering the funds. Legal processes were complex, but the message was clear: unethical behavior would not be tolerated. Old clients, drawn by Nate's vision and track record, began to return. Investor confidence grew. Morale improved. Employees felt a stake in the company's future. Legal battles with Thomas and Veronica continued. They filed baseless countersuits, ironically alleging racial bias, which was dismissed as depositions exposed their dishonesty. When a major investor threatened to withdraw, Nate and Sarah worked tirelessly to reassure them, successfully persuading them to stay. Months passed. Nate finalized the acquisition. Under his leadership, the company rebranded, changing its motto to Pinnacle Solutions, Innovation with Honor. External audits by a major firm were scheduled quarterly, reassuring stakeholders. Employee satisfaction soared with better benefits and transparent communication. Nate fostered an open-door culture. For Nate, the journey was about challenging insidious biases in the corporate world. Walking the halls, he sometimes remembered Brenda's words, the sting of that initial encounter. But now, employee greetings were warm, a testament to changing attitudes. The scandal had forced an awakening. In court, Thomas Croft and Veronica Hayes were found guilty. The judge condemned their greed. The verdict brought closure. Thomas received a substantial prison sentence. Veronica slightly less. Their assets were seized but recovered only a fraction of the stolen millions. The day of the verdict, Nate received messages from relieved employees. Some celebrated the transformation under his leadership. It felt like a moment of atonement. After some time, Pinnacle's new direction proved successful. A major contract landed, signaling renewed industry respect. Revenue climbed. Morale surveys showed significant improvement. Nate announced a partnership with local charities, a personal initiative reflecting his belief in giving back. Employees volunteered, organized fundraisers. The transformation was remarkable. The company that nearly self-destructed now stood as a beacon of ethical turnaround. Life held further complexities. One evening, Nate received a frantic call from Brenda. A relative of Veronica Hayes had tracked her down, attempting intimidation. Believing Brenda had helped build the case, Nate met with Brenda, listening as she tearfully recounted the incident, apologizing again for her initial behavior, explaining it stemmed from ingrained bias and fear under Veronica's direction. She vowed to stand up against intimidation and grow. Nate reassured her, "No one at Pinnacle faces threats alone. If you want to press charges, our legal and security teams will help you." It was a powerful moment of understanding, highlighting the cultural shift. Meanwhile, Dr. Sharma's team, refining digital security, found hidden backup drives with records dating back years. Some contained confessions from the company's founder admitting past unethical acts like bribing officials for permits. The board debated how to handle this older corruption. Ultimately, transparency won. Nate released a statement acknowledging past ethical violations extended beyond Thomas and Veronica. At a press conference, Nate declared, "The pinnacle of old was built on flawed foundations. We will confront every ghost. Our mission to restore integrity is absolute. We accept responsibility for the past and commit to an honorable future." The candor, though potentially damaging, earned respect from clients and the public. A year after Nate's arrival, Pinnacle's turnaround was largely complete. The workforce stabilized, finances were healthy, clients trusted the reinvented firm. Media outlets featured its resurrection story. Nate streamlined departments, integrated advanced platforms. One winter morning, Nate saw Brenda greeting visitors in the lobby, smiling, respectfully verifying appointments, catching his eye across the space. She offered a nod, an unspoken testament to their shared journey. Pinnacle's saga, which began with humiliation and the threat of collapse, ended with renewed purpose and a vindication of justice. The man once told to get lost had not only stayed, he had led the company back from the brink. Challenges remained, but Pinnacle faced them with unity and principle. Employees held their heads high. For Nathaniel Sterling, the turning point remained clear. The moment a seemingly insignificant receptionist dismissed him. Unaware he held the power to reshape everything. It was a reminder that underestimating someone based on appearance is foolish. And that life can pivot on a single act of disrespect. The story of Pinnacle Solutions is a testament to how justice can prevail and how genuine leadership and integrity can redeem a company on the brink.